When my husband couldn't make it to my high school reunion, I told myself it was just a harmless night to catch up with old friends. But as I reached for the doorknob of my ex's apartment the next morning, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest, I wasn't prepared for who'd be standing on the other side, or the way they looked at me like they knew I'd be there. I told myself it was just a conversation, but one moment can change everything. If you've ever made a choice you couldn't take back, if you've wondered what happens after a mistake, hit that subscribe button now, because some stories don't end where you think they will. I never thought I'd feel nervous walking into my high school reunion at 33. I was supposed to be past this, the awkwardness, the nostalgia, the what-ifs. But as I stepped into the dimly lit banquet hall in Portland, my fingers clutched my purse a little too tightly, a nervous energy buzzing beneath my skin. I adjusted my dress, smoothed my hair, and flashed my best smile. My husband James had planned to come with me, but a last-minute business trip sent him across the country to New York instead. "You'll be fine," he'd reassured me over the phone, his voice warm but distracted. "Have fun catching up with your old friends." He sounded indifferent, focused on work, but there was something else in his tone that night, a pause, a hesitation. "I wish I could have gone with you," he'd said, his voice oddly soft. It was strange. James wasn't the jealous type, or at least he hadn't been. But lately, things between us felt different, small cracks in the easy comfort we once shared, now laced with something unspoken. Distance. Doubt. I tried to brush it off, and so did he. "I'll call you when I get back," I promised. But as I stepped deeper into the reunion, a restless spark igniting inside me, I knew I wouldn't. Because then I saw him. Ethan. He was standing by the bar laughing with a group of old classmates, looking almost unchanged, jet-black hair, that confident smile that used to make my knees weak, deep brown eyes that once held promises we couldn't keep. Our breakup had been painful, but inevitable. Different colleges, different cities, different lives. We'd tried to make it work, but distance and time wore us down. The calls became less frequent, the texts went unanswered, until one day we just stopped. And now here he was. His eyes met mine across the room, and for a fleeting second the world tilted and I forgot how to breathe. We spent the night mingling with old friends, laughing about memories that felt like they belonged to another lifetime. But all the while I felt Ethan's presence like a shadow hovering just behind me, a magnetic pull I couldn't ignore. As the reunion wound down, he found me at the bar. "Let's grab a drink tomorrow," he said, his voice low, familiar, warm. "Just us." I hesitated. Would James be expecting a call tonight? He'd ask how it went, who I saw. He'd probably ask about Ethan. "He's going right." James had asked the night before when I mentioned Ethan might be there, his voice light, but his fingers tapping the table. "It's just a reunion," James, I'd said, brushing it off as nothing. But now, standing in front of Ethan, the weight of that conversation pressed heavier. I should have said no, but instead my lips moved before my brain caught up. Okay. The next evening, we met at a quiet wine bar in downtown Portland. One glass of wine turned into 2, then 3. The conversation flowed effortlessly, like no time had passed, each word pulling me back to a version of myself I'd almost forgotten. He made me laugh, made me forget my responsibilities, the polished version of myself I'd become. "You haven't changed," he murmured, his fingers brushing mine on the table, a touch that sent a jolt through me like electricity. I swallowed hard. We'd both changed, but in that moment I didn't want to think about reality. I just wanted to hold on to the feeling of being 20 again, sitting across from the boy I'd loved. When he leaned in, I didn't pull away. And when he asked me to come back to his place, I said yes. The moment I stepped into his apartment, the air between us shifted. There was no mistaking what this was, no denying the tension that had built all night. Ethan closed the door behind us, the soft click echoing in the silence, a sound that felt like a line being crossed. My pulse pounded in my ears as I turned to face him. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he stepped forward, his hands finding my waist, his touch both firm and hesitant, like he was waiting for me to stop him. I didn't. The warmth of his body radiated through the thin fabric of my dress, and as his lips hovered just above mine, teasing my breath caught. His first kiss sent a tremor through me, deep and unrelenting, like a dam breaking after years of restraint. He kissed me harder, like he'd been starving for this moment. My fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, erasing the years that had separated us. His hands traced familiar paths, rediscovering sparks that had never truly died. I gasped as he pressed me against the wall, his lips trailing along my jaw, my throat each touch a whisper of something unspoken. He lifted me effortlessly and I clung to him, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me to the bedroom. When we reached the bed, I was lost in him. He set me down his weight, grounding me as his lips continued their slow, deliberate exploration. My dress slipped off my shoulders, and his hands followed, gliding over every curve with a reverence that made me shiver. It was so familiar, yet charged with something new, something deeper, more desperate. As he settled between my hips, our eyes met, and for a fleeting moment we just breathed no words, no second-guessing, just a quiet surrender to the inevitable. Then he moved and the world around us faded. The rhythm between us was slow at first, savoring every stolen second, a dance of longing that felt like coming home. But then restraint gave way to urgency, and I met him with the same intensity, losing myself in the heat, the friction, the overwhelming pull neither of us could resist. His hands gripped my hips, guiding me, holding me close as waves of sensation crashed over me, each one stronger than the last. My breath hitched, my fingers digging into his shoulders as the pleasure coiled inside me, tightening, ready to snap. And then it did. I shattered beneath him, a soft cry escaping my lips as I trembled in his arms. Moments later, he followed, his body tensing before collapsing against me, breathless. For a long time, neither of us spoke. We just lay there, tangled in the sheets, the soft thump of our heartbeats, the only sound in the room. Morning came too soon. Golden sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting gentle shadows across the bed. Ethan slept beside me, his arm draped over my waist, his steady breathing a quiet reminder of the night we'd stolen. My body ached in a way that had nothing to do with exhaustion. I lay on my side, staring at the ceiling, the weight of last night pressing like a stone on my chest. What had I done? My hand trembled as I reached for my phone, dozens of missed calls from James. My stomach twisted. I had to go. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Ethan, gathering my dress from the floor and pulling it over my head. My heart raced as I tiptoed to the door, ready to run to leave this mistake behind. But the moment I opened it, I froze. James stood there. My breath caught in my throat. His face was unreadable, no anger, no shock, just still. I couldn't speak. Neither could he. We just stared at each other, the silence between us louder than any scream. And in that moment, a cold certainty settled in my bones. Everything had changed forever. What would you do if the truth was standing right in front of you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And don't forget to like and subscribe because some choices can never be undone. Until next time, be careful and choose wisely.